Melissa Conyears-Ervin is a trailblazer in her own right. Elected in 2019 as Chicago City Treasurer, she oversees the City of Chicago's investment portfolio valued at over $11 billion. She also formerly served as state representative of the 10th District in the Illinois General Assembly. She's a lifelong Chicagoan, a proud wife and mother, and a longtime member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. Madam Treasurer, thank you so much for joining for the inaugural episode of In My Own Words.
Yay! Go, Corey! Yay!
You know, the crazy part, and I know we talked about it, when I first thought about relaunching the show for season 3, major shout out to WVON and Vaughn TV, which is our new platform.
Hey, my girl.
You were the first one that I wanted to interview. And I think you have such an inspiring story that's really rooted in service. And so when I thought about who I wanted to showcase, you were the first one I thought of. So I'm happy you were able to join today.
It is my pleasure. I absolutely adore everything that you are doing. I'm so excited about this. I was like, absolutely. You know, you barely could get the ask out. And I was like, I am here with you in studio. I think this is so much fun. I'm excited. You know, I love to talk about how I got to where I am today, how we help people. And I'm sitting down with my friends, so it couldn't be any better.
And I think it's so interesting. The premise of the show was really rooted in showcasing the stories of leaders that are doing really impactful work in and around the city, the state, the region. And so I think it's oftentimes folks don't have the opportunity to sit down and really hear the story. So I wanted this to be like a living embodiment of that, to be able to showcase those stories. So let's get started.
And it feels good to talk about something positive these days, right? So I can appreciate this platform. Thank you.
So I like to start every episode with a lightning round of questions.
Okay.
So you tell me the first answer that comes to your head. Beyonce was recently in town for her Cowboy Carter tour.
She's amazing, but okay.
I'm so mad that I get a chance to go to the concert.
She's amazing, but okay.
What is your favorite Beyonce song?
Oh, everybody. There's only one favorite, right? Although she has a million songs.
I was going to say.
I mean, I cannot count how many songs Beyonce has, but my favorite, I think the legendary is, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. You know, that. I wish I could sing like her, but I can't. But anyway.
The anthem for all
That's
single ladies.
That's the anthem. I mean, come on. All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single. Yeah.
So fellas, make sure you put a ring on.
And they got some, I could sing. You didn't even know that, did you?
I didn't. Yeah, look, you learn something new every day.
Okay.
So Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey?
Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Whitney Houston. Oof. Okay. Love her. Everything. I love her.
She is the voice, as they say. What is your favorite movie?
No one would ever imagine this, but I am like extremely silly, goofy, like when I have a moment. And my favorite movie is My Cousin Vinny. I'm talking about laugh by myself. Nobody needs to watch this movie with me. I laugh. That is like the funniest movie. I can recite lines. Yeah, I love that movie.
My Cousin Vinny.
You would never imagine it. That's my favorite movie.
It is a good movie, but you're right. I would not have imagined.
My favorite movie. But nobody watches it with me.
What is the best piece of advice anyone ever gave you?
My mother. My mother told me, and I stick by this saying today. My mother always told me that I'm not better than anyone, but she would say, more importantly, there's no one better than you. And I don't think there's anybody better than me. I'm convinced of that.
I love that. I love that. And that is a true mama quote.
That's a true mama quote. And I mean, I was the type of child, I'm like, my mama said it. It's the truth. It's Bible. She said it, and I'm taking it to the grave.
And then the last question, because, you know, you tout both sides, the South and the West side.
Yes, I do.
You know, I have to ask Uncle Remus or Harold.
Oh, both.
Okay.
Because it depends on the mood I'm in, right? And Harold's is now on the West side. So I don't even know how you pick that, but I love both. Ooh, Uncle Remus, I don't know how their crisp is like the way it is, but it is. But it's something about the Harold's too, and the sauce and all that. And I like the sauce on Uncle Remus. It just depends on my mood.
So shout out to Uncle Remus and Harold's, South and West side.
Love both of them.
Well, thank you for participating in our lightning round of questions. So As we get started, I like to start each episode talking about upbringing. And so you always talk about the fact that you were born on the South Side in the Inglewood community and raised on the West Side in the Austin community. And so how have the South and West Sides shaped you into who you are and ultimately the path that you've been able to blaze for yourself?
And I would tell you, I'm so proud to be from Inglewood. I'm so proud to be from the West Side. I don't care what platform I'm on. I always talk about my upbringing. And it's interesting that I remember I was in Virginia and I was talking about Inglewood, and people that's not even from Chicago have heard of Inglewood was nodding their head. And so I'm so proud of it because we have a reputation that one may not be proud of, but I'm proud to be able to represent what can come out of the South and West sides of Chicago. So that's something that's very important to me, and that's why I do not hide where I come from. But I will tell you, when you think about the upbringing, I mean, we all are a product of where we come from. And so when I think about the families that have struggled on the West and South sides of Chicago, that was my family. That was my mother. And so I think about the diligence, the tenacity, just the hardworking people that helped to build me into who I am today. And it really has empowered me to be able to work the way that I do and care so much about people. I mean, we care so much about our community. It means so much to us. And so my family is an extension of the West and South sides of Chicago. And by the way, as city treasurer of Chicago, I always say I represent all of Chicago. But, please understand, I come from the South Side. I come from the West Side. I know the struggle of everyday families, but it's also that has helped me to be where I am today. Because every day I'm reminded of who put me in this seat, number one, but second, who I represent. And number three, it's important that I continue to know and realize that they need me to be who I am, even in this moment. That's what I appreciate.
That is so true. And oftentimes, to piggyback off your point, you can't be what you can't see. And so for young kids to see somebody that ascended to be the city treasurer of the third largest city in the country, but you come from the communities that they come from. That provides that type of inspiration so that folks know that I can do it too.
And I tell the young people, they are amazed when I talk to them, when I go into the schools and I tell them that I was born in Inglewood. I was raised on the West Side, and they look at me. And then I say, and I was raised by a single mother. And I was the first in my family to go to college. And they're amazed. And then I say, and guess how much money I invest for you? Or I invest for your parents and your family. And they'll say, oh, 10 million. Oh, 1 million. And I was like, go higher. And they might say, 500 million. I'm like, go higher. And they're like, looking at me like this, $1 billion? I'm like, try $11 billion in their eyes. But they need to hear that. And they need to know that that can be them.
So you talked a lot about your mom in that story, and I oftentimes hear her weaved throughout your speeches when you're talking about your journey, your pathway. Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yes, my mother was everything. My mother was everything because I watched her struggle. And my mother always had a saying, and I didn't understand it then. She would always say with her paycheck, she would take it, she would rob Peter to pay Paul. And I would say, what is that, right? But now, as treasurer, now being an adult, like I understand that statement. And she didn't mean it literally, but figuratively. I understood what she meant, right? The struggle that she had to take care of her 3 girls. And I'll never forget, the reason I focus so much as treasurer on home ownership. Home ownership is the quickest and easiest way to build generational wealth for a family. And we need to hear that, especially on the South and West sides of Chicago, because when we hear the terminology of building generational wealth, we think that doesn't apply to us.
Absolutely.
When in fact, purchasing a home is the quick and easiest way to do that. And I know this, again, because of what I lived. So my mother, we when I was born, we were in a family's home. And then my mother was so proud to be able to purchase her own home for her 3 girls on the west side of Chicago in Austin. And so I watched my mother as a homeowner and as a single woman. But she was smart. My mother was so smart. I declare that was the smartest woman I ever met in my life. And what was amazing was when I went off to college, well, let me back up. I'm a product of CPS, elementary, high school, but I took school so serious.
Yeah.
My mother had expectations of me, and it did not matter my zip code. It did not matter what school I attended. She had expectations. It did not matter that she was working 2 and 3 jobs, 2 and 3 shifts, barely home. When she got home, she expected that her children would behave a certain way and would get certain grades in school. And so because of her expectation of me, it was important to me that I did not fail her. And I will also say, because I watched her sacrifice so much, that meant a lot to me. I'll never forget when I got married, I was speaking and I said, because my mother was single while she was raising us, I thought my mother didn't date anyone. Can you believe? I was like, this woman doesn't do anything. I mean, I thought my mother was perfect. And that was so funny. Now that I'm an adult, I know there's no such thing.
Right.
But my mother only showed me perfection. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so because I saw that and witnessed that, there are certain ways and standards I have now raising my daughter. Just watch this. I want you all to really hear this. Because my mother showed me perfection, I aim, and again, we know there's no such thing, but that allows me to say, as I raise my daughter, there are certain things I want her to see in me as her mother.
Yeah.
Now, am I perfect? Oh, God knows I'm not. But I show up a certain way in front of her because I have a certain level of expectation for her. So that's the background. I don't even know what else I was supposed to say, Corey, but I just get all into it. My mother was everything and all of that. And she just taught me to be the best person I can be.
That was a word because you said you thought your mom was
I thought she was perfect.
Your daughter probably thinks you're perfect too. And so that
I would certainly hope so.
It's generational right now. How did she influence your political journey?
You know, the most that I knew about politics, because my mother was a single mother and just worked so much, my mother was like what we would consider a super voter. I mean, she believed, like many elders, that our ancestors fought so hard for us to have the right to vote. And so our elders take it very seriously. And since I was 18 years old, my mother always took me to vote. She would tell me who to vote for. And I was in college at the time, and every time I came home, she would say, we're going to vote, and this is who you're voting for. And so I was raised to vote. But that was the most political acumen we had in our household. I just knew to vote. Never in a million years would I have imagined running for office. Matter of fact, when you're raised in communities such as I mean, we're not thinking that we're going to ever be a part of this process. You see people on television, you have really no idea how they even got there.
Yeah.
And so for me to have become familiar with the political process and understand that, wow, normal people actually can run for office. Everyday people can run for office. That was like eye-opening for me. And so when I had the opportunity to do so, and by the way, I'm like any other child that's born and raised in an underserved community where when I went to college, I knew that I was going to go into business. I wanted to graduate so I could make a lot of money. I was going into corporate America because I wanted to really help my family and not have to watch my mother struggle the way that I watched her my entire life. So I aspired to go off into corporate America, and that's what I did, by the way. I was the first of my family to go to college. When I went to college, I got my BS in business and finance, Bachelor of Science in finance. And after that, I spent over a decade in corporate America. And corporate America was very good to me as a Black woman. I was an executive in corporate America, as they say, doing my thing.
Yeah.
But I actually got bit by the political bug. And I decided to make one of the best decisions I could have made. And that was to leave corporate America. Oh, by the way, I didn't leave corporate America before they paid for my MBA.
Let them pay for your education.
Please. I tell the young people all the time, I said, now, when it was on my dime, I went to a public university for my bachelor's. When it was on the corporate dime, I went to a private university for my master's. So please make certain to do that. But after I received my master's, and certainly gave them a great return on their investment, after that, I did go ahead and made the best decision, one of the best decisions I could have made. That was to leave corporate America and work for my community. And I have not regretted it one day.
So I want to focus a little bit on your journey in corporate America.
Yes.
So you said CPS graduate, you went to Von Steuben High School?
Yes, Von Steuben High School. I would travel from Austin up to as far north, almost close to Evanston, as you know. Von Steuben is at the tip of the city, the northern part of the city. So that would be an hour bus ride every day, back and forth, going to Von Steuben.
Ooh.
But CPS school, very good to me.
And then you went on to Eastern Illinois University.
Public university.
You got your bachelor's in business and finance.
Yes.
And later you went and got your MBA from Roosevelt University.
That is correct.
Now, so many people would know you as Chicago City Treasurer or formerly state representative, but a lot of folks probably don't know that you got your start in corporate America, particularly in the insurance industry, where you spent more than 15 years.
That is true.
And so talk to us a little bit about how you got into the industry.
Yes.
Is that something you always wanted to do?
No, by accident, right? And so I knew that I wanted to be in finance, knew I wanted to be in financial services. I actually started at the bank. So when I graduated from college, and here's the thing that I want to share. When in my community, we would always hear, when you work at a bank, you only thought the people that worked in the bank were the people that when you went into that branch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, there is so much more to the financial services industry. I was amazed to learn of that. And I learned of that even after I left the banking institution. And so to learn that there's like wealth management that exists, not at the branch level, that there is, of course, like even housing specialists and those that help with mortgages, things of that sort to help you get the housing.
Yeah.
But also there's investment professionals. You won't necessarily see them at the retail banking institution. And so there's a lot to banking that even I wasn't familiar with. And immediately when I graduated from college, I worked at the retail part of banking, unbeknownst to me that there was so much more to banking where, as I say, real money is being made. And there can be some real money made. Whenever you talk about investment banking, anything that includes investment banking, please know you need to be on high alert because you're talking about real money being made.
Yeah.
And that's what I see now as City Treasurer of Chicago. This is what I teach the young people. I have them. I said, when you go home, I need you to research investment banking. I need you to research investment banking because here's what I found out. You don't have to be an A student to be an investment banker. You really don't. You just need opportunity and you got to be a hard worker.
Yeah.
That's what's the two most important aspects of being an investment banker. And that's why in this role as treasurer, I work hard to expose those opportunities. That's why internships mean so much to me.
Absolutely.
Means so much because if I can get those young people in that room, then they'll be keen to understand that there's other opportunities out here we weren't even aware of. But yeah, I left corporate America. I loved it. They were good to me. But the best job that I can have right now is helping people.
How did you navigate corporate America being a young Black woman? Because oftentimes you see those spaces aren't reflective of us. And you're navigating in rooms, especially as you ascend in the industry, into spaces that are less diverse.
Yes.
That oftentimes try to cap who you are and what you're able to achieve. So how did you navigate as a young Black woman?
I'll tell you, I am so grateful for the experiences in corporate America because, to be honest with you, this role as city treasurer, being an elected role, is one of the most unique elected roles that we have. And here's what I mean by that. You have to have skill. You have to have like totally different technical skills needed for treasurer because we're talking about investments all day, every day. And see, a lot of people see me like in this setting and they know that I invest in people. They know I focus on home ownership. They know I focus on small businesses. But what they don't know is that behind the scenes, while I'm in the office and even while I'm not in the office, I'm the only elected official that's a part of 4 of all the city's pension funds. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But they know me being at the forefront, being out here with the people. But what they don't know is that this is a highly technical job. And so I have to be able to talk about the stock market. I have to be able to talk about investments, bonds, stocks, everything that's going on in our day to day. That's how I invest taxpayer dollars. So this is a very technical
$11 billion.
job. $11 billion portfolio. So this is a very technical job.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people may not realize. Because I hear a lot of people that's like, oh, I want to be treasurer. And I'm okay. Just understand how I got here. Like, there was a lot of skill, education, talent to get me to where I am today. Now, that's why I'm encouraging the young people that this can be you. And again, it's never too late to focus on investments, never too late to focus on finance. That is something that you can absolutely learn. I know people that went into finance, they may have started in accounting and then they switch over to finance. By the way, I was one of those. When I went to college, I was convinced I was going to be a CPA. And then I took cost accounting and all that changed. I said, wait a minute, what is that?
Look, I started as a finance major, took economics and was like, maybe I need to go to political
science. I love economics. I love talking about
I loved it in grad
cost.
school. In undergrad, it was a bit
It was a beast. It was. That was a very difficult class, though. I will admit. But that experience in corporate America, being the only Black woman in so many instances in the room, because as you said, we just don't get those type of opportunities. So there were so many instances that I was the only Black woman, only Black, and then Black woman in the room.
Yeah.
And it took that experience. Let's bring it up to today as treasurer. I'm talking about investments. I'm talking about banking. I'm talking about financial services. I am usually the only Black woman in the room. Unlike many other elected officials, like, I have a very distinct role where I'm talking to investment professionals all the time. We're making deals with how do we allocate $50 million to this broker dealer?
Yeah.
How do we allocate $25 million with our investment portfolio, with our pension funds? How are we going to invest our fire pension fund, our police pension fund, our municipal pension fund, our laborers pension fund? Who are we going to invest with? And by the way, one thing that's important to me in this role, even though that I am most likely the only Black, only woman in the room, I am unapologetic about who I am.
Come on.
I don't apologize for who I am. I don't apologize for who I represent. And I always say that we represent all of Chicago. And it's very important that we respect the makeup of Chicago in how we invest these dollars.
I love that. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that too.
Yes.
So let's fast forward a little bit.
Yes.
2016 comes around.
Yes.
At this point, you're doing your thing. You're in corporate America. You're married now to current alderman and chairman of the budget committee, Jason Ervin.
Yes.
First lady of the West Side.
Yeah.
of the 28th Ward.
28th Ward now.
And you hear about an opening for a state representative seat for the 10th district.
Yes.
In the Illinois General Assembly. And you decide to throw your name in the hat for it. Walk us through the decision-making process for it. Because it's a tough decision to think about.
Very.
Hopping into pursuing elected office, running for office, raising money. So walk us through a little bit about your decision behind deciding to do it.
That was so funny. And by the way, I was literally like in a honeymoon stage of marriage, right? Newlywed. So imagine my husband married me. I was an executive in corporate. And then I said, I think I want to quit my job and run for public office. Now, the good part is that he was a part of public office, right? So he understood. But I know there was still like, whoa, one of us got to have like that type of job here. But thank God he was very supportive. And I will tell you that it was actually Allstate at the time is where I was working for insurance. And they had an executive in residency program where they loaned their executives to not-for-profit. So the not-for-profit had an opportunity to utilize our talents, our skills, and didn't have to pay for us.
I love that.
I know. I love that. And I don't know how many corporations have that program today, but that was amazing. And so Breakthrough Urban Ministries was actually is actually today even in East Garfield Park. And so that is a not-for-profit that services the homeless population. And so I had an opportunity to actually work in their office setting there to be a part of their management team for several months to help them like with the future planning and things of that sort. Again, an executive in residency able to help them. And it was that experience where I saw them really work on the west side of Chicago, helping people that really just needed a hand up, not a handout. And it was that experience that when the state representative role became available, that I said, this is the right time. This is the right moment. I want to be able to help people. I care about people so much. I can be up at night just thinking about how can I help? I want to help. I don't want people to go without. I don't believe in the haves and have-nots, because what I do know is that all we need is an opportunity. And that's why I love being where I am, to be able to afford an opportunity. Because most of the time what I figured out, it's not that people are so much smarter than you. It's just that they were afforded an opportunity.
Absolutely. Did you have any hesitation?
Of course. Because, people talk so negative about politics, and I get it, right? There's been some terrible stories. People think kind of negative sometimes about politics, again, from what they have seen and heard. But I just knew that I wanted to give it a chance, because one thing I thought about was, if not me, then who? And so I knew that no one was coming to save us. I knew it. We have to save ourselves. So I want to do that.
Did running for office come natural for you, actually, like stepping out there? Because I know you, so I know you're a people person.
Yes.
And you can build relationships and navigate relationships really well.
Yeah.
Did it come natural for you, kind of
a
being
little
out
more
there?
natural than I thought.
Okay.
Right? Because that wasn't my thing. I thought that, I am a normal person. That's what I would always say. I'm not a politician. I'm a normal person. I was raised by a normal woman. I've struggled. I wasn't fed a silver spoon. This was very difficult for me, because again, what I see on TV, I think that's not for me.
Yeah.
But in fact it is. But I will tell you that what was really interesting was when I went to Springfield, because that was the real test. That was my first stint in politics. In Springfield, to go down to Springfield, to go in the House chamber, I was the Illinois state representative, and to see Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other, I was like, what is this? Like, you all don't sit together? They're like, no, we're on this side, they're on that side, and we don't talk to. I'm like, you all don't talk to one another? That mind you, I come from corporate America.
Yeah.
When I went to Springfield, I said, oh, that means I've been working with all Republicans when I was in this. Because their views were literally like the views of people that I worked with. Not everybody, but that was interesting that I had that experience. I didn't even realize that corporate America gave me that experience. Yeah. So I was able to interact with everybody, because at the end of the day, I would always say, it's not about, we're going to disagree. Like, that's natural. That's the way the world turns. We're never going to agree with everything. However, even though I don't agree with where your stance is, I want to listen to you. And I will hope you listen to me.
Yeah.
Can we just do that?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to agree on everything, but can we listen to one another? Can we respect one another? Like, you don't see that these days. But that's something I was able to take to Springfield. And so I was able to cross the aisle and talk to Republicans and get legislation passed that Democrats said, there's no use in talking to them. They'll never vote for that.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you just ask people to just listen, this will help your community as well.
That's so important, because oftentimes you hear about folks that are able to cross the aisle, and I find that the most effective policy is made when you are able to hear a diverse array of opinions.
That is correct.
And from that kind of come to a consensus around meeting in the middle on something.
Yeah, the word compromise is like a bad word these days, right? They're like, don't compromise. It's like, a real deal is when we both walk away pissed off, right? It's like, I didn't get everything, you didn't get everything, but we were able to meet, right? And walk away with something. So there are certain things I'm not going to budge on, right? But there are certain things that I'm like, let's give a little, let's compromise so that we can win. And we weren't always in the super majority in the House of Representatives in Illinois. So you had to compromise. Yeah. You had to work together. I was actually listening to Congresswoman Robin Kelly the other day, and she said something that was interesting to me in DC. She says, DC, we don't have the supermajority. So you can't come in there and just shove everything down anybody's throat, right? You have to work together. And so it's like, gone are the days of working together, right? And so I can appreciate that, but that's something that I really had to learn in corporate America.
So you talked about your time in Springfield. So obviously you ran and you won.
Yes.
And now the real work starts, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're going down to Springfield.
Yeah.
How did you decide what you wanted to focus on? What are your issue areas that you care most about?
So I also neglected to mention that I was pregnant when I ran for state representative. So when I took office, my baby was 6 months, and I would travel 3 hours back and forth from Chicago to Springfield with my newborn baby. And I was a nursing mother. And so I would never forget, I'm sitting at Springfield. I'm like, was this made for men? Because like, do I have time to pump? Do I have time? Like, my baby got to be fed. I'm like, there was like meeting to meeting to meeting to reception to, I'm like, you got to give a woman a break here, right? And when I went to Springfield, we didn't even have a lactation room. This is a real conversation. Just so funny. So when my daughter, some days I would bring her to the house floor, but some days I didn't. I would have her with someone that would care for her while I was on the house floor. But still, I had to take a break. I need to come off the house floor to go nurse my baby, right? Yeah. But there were times where I would pump at the Capitol, and there was no lactation room. So you know where I had to pump at? I had to go to the paramedics room and like a curtain in the room. The guy was sitting right there. He was that close to me, 10 feet away. And he would pull the curtain back and he could literally hear my machine. Zoom. But what was even worse, he would talk to me. I'm like, dude, can I please have my privacy while
This is not a moment where we want to have a whole conversation.
Like, I am like, zoom, zoom. He's like, so how's it going down there? So I was one of the co-chairs of the Women's Caucus, the Democratic Women's Caucus. Uh-huh. And through our group, we originated a lactation room, a mother's room, a nursing room for women to be able to nurse.
I love it.
That was so awesome. But that's because I was sitting. Yeah.
But so, that was birthed through your experience.
My experience. See, this is why we are needed in the room. And I always tell women especially, and women rock. You know, I just have the greatest adoration from women because of my mother. I know how strong we are. And I tell women all the time, we got to be in the room. Mm-hmm. Because if we're not in the room, then we're not going to be able to change things. I know we don't like the way things are. I know we get frustrated. I get frustrated. But we got to be in the room.
How important was a village for you during that moment? Because I would see you on Facebook and you're like, talking through a bill, you got your baby in your hand.
Literally. Wow. I'll never forget. While Representative Leader Jahan Gordon Booth from Peoria was like in the back, like straightening up my hair for one bill because I was like all over the place nursing my baby and holding her and doing this. And I was standing up presenting my bill and she was like in the back. You could see her like getting me. That's what a real village does, right? And so they were so good and they would hold my baby. They would help me feed my baby. Whatever I needed, they would make certain that they took care of me, covered to make certain that I was well taken care of. There's nothing like a village. Mm-hmm. And I say the same thing. And even now as treasurer, you know, we can't do everything by ourselves. And I tell you, I do think I'm superwoman. But the fact of the matter is, I need help, right? I need help. We all need help. And it's okay to say you need help because even with needing help, you're still so valuable. You're still so needed. And so there's nothing like a woman helping another woman and a man supporting and uplifting a woman that he knows is the best woman for that job, the best person for that job. And so I can appreciate all the support that I've received in this moment.
As a Black man, we always, I know so many of my friends, we talk about the same thing because you're kind of bred to be like, I got it. I'm good.
Yes.
But the importance of saying, hey, I actually need some help. Can you help me?
Yes.
And I know sometimes it's a blow to the ego, fellas, but you gotta lean in
You
and
gotta.
accept some help.
We're here for one another.
Yeah,
I support you, you support me. That's the way it's supposed to be. And
absolutely.
again, you can't make it in this world alone. You could try, but you can't.
Did you have any other areas? I know you talked about like lactation, which is super important.
Yes.
But did you have any other areas that you were championing as a state rep?
Oh my gosh, childcare. Again, this is why representation matters. This is why we need, I always say mothers, working mothers, we need those that are going to be in the room to speak our voice. And so I focused on childcare assistance. And when Bruce Runner at the time, when he got in office, he cut childcare assistance that it like cut 15,000 families throughout the state
Yeah.
off of childcare. Oh my gosh. And I remember when my mother, and by the way, my mother was a union worker. And my mother, because of childcare issues, she would take her 3 girls to her union meetings. We spent so much time in the union hall. Like that was our home in the union hall. And my mother I was so proud. My mother was a union steward. And we spent a lot of times in the union hall. Now, I will say that helped me to be who I am today, right? I understood now I understand what it means to fight for employee rights. And I watched them and I listened to them, even though I was playing with my friends on the side in the union hall. Everybody brought their kids to the union hall. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. But I watched her and I knew that she couldn't pay for childcare and they didn't have childcare assistance like we were able to provide when I was a state legislator.
Yeah.
And so that was something very important to me. And so that's when I crossed the aisle and got the support of the Republicans as well. And what was so funny is that not only did I pass that legislation bipartisan, but Bruce Runner signed the legislation. He signed the legislation
Well, would you look at
that he cut. Won't he do it, as they say?
Won't he will?
Won't he will? So that was very important to me, and I was so proud to be able to have done that. But then I also focused a lot on seniors, and I focused a lot on jobs. How can we create careers for everyone? And we know that that is something that's very important. So that was like a big focus for me: mothers, children, seniors, and jobs.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit now.
Yes.
2018 comes around and you hear about an opening for a Chicago City Treasurer.
Wow.
Which is one of the 3 citywide elected offices. And you decide to throw your name in the hat. Now, you had just gone down to Springfield and you were going back and forth. What made you want to throw your name in the hat for city treasurer?
So finance has always been my background, which is amazing that how I'm so connected to this role as treasurer. To have my BS in finance, to have my MBA in finance, to work over a decade in corporate America, it was a perfect match. Because I love civil service. I love working for the community. So to be able to match my passion with my skill, this was perfect.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely love what I do. That was a hard run because we're talking about a district, Illinois State Representative being a district, to a citywide role.
Like the sheer geography of this, you're zigzagging across the city.
Oh my gosh. Like you could be as far south, like it could be an hour in between, especially if you talk about traffic, an hour and a half. And so that was a huge, huge undertaking to run for treasurer of Chicago. So there was a lot of work, but I'm so glad that we did it to be in this role today.
Did you have any hesitation for that?
Yes. I was like, can I do it? Can I pull it off? And then it was a very contested race.
Yeah.
And like one of the most contested races for treasurer we've seen in Chicago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, can I do this? But again, my mother always taught me, you can do whatever you want to do and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it.
Come on.
And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I went for it because I've learned to not fear. Like I don't fear anything and I don't fear anyone but God.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that. And so I take chances. You know what else I've learned in finance? You got to take risk.
Yeah.
Risk brings rewards. Now, you don't take so much risk that you put it all on the line. I always say that's my guide. People do what they want. However, for me, I'm not afraid to take risk because I know risk come with rewards.
What was your approach to running and winning? Because you just talked about the geography. Like, how do you do it? You can't be everywhere. You can't go to everything.
Relationships.
Okay.
Relationships matter because you can't be in every room. And so to have people speaking on your behalf really matters. And that's why your reputation matters. My mother would always tell me your reputation precedes you. So you want to make certain your representation precedes you in a great way. But then I'll also say that I've learned to meet people where they are. So I am a person that does not believe in judging people. I just think we're different, right? You may do things that I don't agree with, and you may do things that I don't even like. But I've learned not to judge people. Yeah. And so I meet people where they are. And I feel like that has gotten me to where I am today. And so I accept people for who they are. And I find out and figure a way to work with them, even when I'm not necessarily pleased with everything that they're doing. And so that's something that I believe helped me to win that race, is to be able to go into any community and to talk and to relate. And we may not have been brought up the same way, but I can listen.
Yeah.
I can understand. We have the same shared goal. We all want to be able to go to work, come home, take care of our families, raise our kids in a nice, safe neighborhood, and be able to provide for our kids, be able to afford groceries, be able to send our kids to a great school, and be able to send our kids off, whether that's in their technical careers or college careers, whatever that is. Yeah. We want them to be successful. That's what we all want. And we want to be able to retire one day and actually have a cushion to be able to retire with. Yeah.
So when you won, though, you, for the first time in history, the 3 citywide seats were not only held by women, but women of color.
Amazing.
What did that moment mean for you, not only as a woman, but as a Black woman?
You know, we hear things about Chicago. But that was one of the most proudest moments I had of Chicago. And to me, it really speaks volumes to who we are as a whole in Chicago. And Chicago is one of the most diverse cities. Absolutely. If you ever want to meet. It's diverse. And the diversity in this city elected 3 women of color. That was amazing. Never happened before in history. Oh my gosh. And so to be able to come in with our city clerk, Anna Valencia, and our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, that meant so much in that moment. But again, it speaks volumes to who we are as a city, as a people. And so I want us to remember that, because we can be unified as a city. And that was that moment.
So now you're in your second term as city treasurer. What have been some of your biggest accomplishments?
So I would say being able to bring financial services to the people. And here's what I mean about this. We have programs that we bring to the community never heard of before I became in office, where we take financial management and able to help you with your financial management, budgeting, investing, savings, all the planning, financial planning, help you to aspire for home ownership as well as for opening your own business. Access to capital. Access to capital is a huge opportunity area, especially in underserved communities. We have people that have the best ideas, but unfortunately they lack access to capital. And so what we're doing is bringing these answers and resources to the people. So I've had programs on the north side of Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, on the west side of Chicago, in the loop of Chicago, programs where we come into the community. We bring the banks, we bring the credit agencies, we bring the credit agencies to you to tell you how to improve your credit score for free.
Do you hear that, people? You can fix your credit for free.
They come and give you the answers. That's never happened before. And so I love the opportunity to be able to do that, to help people just really fulfill their dreams.
Yeah.
That is so important to me. So that's what I'm proud of. I'm proud of that we have really brought the business and the banking institutions to the table. And we've called them out. And we've said, you have to kill the disparity that you have in these banking institutions in the way that you do business. Yeah. That has been financial disparity that exists in our communities. We have financial deserts banking deserts in our communities. And by the way, I just went to 2 grand openings last week of banks being opened in our communities. And I was speaking to them and I said, this is what it's about. This is what makes me feel great about the role that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I talk all the time about stop closing branches in our community and stop being afraid of the residents in our community and open branches, welcome us in and allow us to be able to gain the resources and access to capital that we need and deserve. So that's what I'm most proud of, to be able to bring to the community. And I know a lot of families, we're busy working 2 and 3 jobs, so you can't always get out into the community. So by the way, we have virtual workshops. You can join them on your lunch break, or when you get home, you can go back and watch them. Go to our social media, go to our website, watch videos that we've already produced to help you and provide these resources to you. That's what I'm most proud of, to be able to bring these resources to the people, because, but again, it's just being able to get the answers.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
What has been some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I would say just the challenges of working families, really watching the challenges of working families and watching their struggles and them being denied the opportunity of an appropriate future. That is one of the greatest challenges that keep me up at night. I really, when I talked earlier about the haves and the have-nots, I just think that everyone should be afforded an opportunity to have their best life. And unfortunately, even today in 2025, we're still seeing discrimination. We're still seeing disparity. And that is something that is a challenge for me that I have to fight through each and every day. And I see it. I see it in my role. You know, some days I wake up and I say, I hope I don't have to fight today. And I go in and I'm like, here we go again. You have to fight. And I know the people know that I'm going to do that for them. And I want people to trust that even when there's no cameras around, that I am fighting for them. That's what's important.
I love that. So the premise of the show, and we talked about it a little earlier, is to highlight the stories of folks that so many, including myself, look up to in your journeys. And I think oftentimes what you see, whether on Instagram or Facebook, are a lot of the high moments, right? You see the wins, but you don't always hear about the losses.
Yes.
And I've had several folks, Senate Majority Leader Kimberly Lightford talked about her loss pursuing the Senate president's seat. City Clerk Anna Valencia talked about her loss pursuing Secretary of State. Even Speaker of the House, Emmanuel Chris Welch, talked about losing his first state rep race. And so in 2023, you decided to throw your name in the hat for a seat held by long-term Congressman for the 7th District, Danny Davis. And ultimately, you didn't prove victorious in that. Walk us through what made you decide to, one, throw your name in the hat for it.
You know, I listen to the people, and I listen to my heart, and it was something that was important that I needed to show up for the people, for the community. I have wise mentors, so we've had conversations, and we knew that, you know, what's going on in D.C. right now is just not working for working families.
Yeah.
And so it was very important for me as a mother, as a working mother, to be able to show up and speak on behalf of other working mothers, of working families. And so that was quite an adventure. And so I thought that, again, as we take steps and go higher and aspire for greater office, we do that with the mindset of the people. Everything we do have to be with the mindset of the people. And so I knew that Washington, D.C. was broken, and still is broken. And I knew that Washington, D.C. needed someone that was going to be there to really be able to represent working families today.
So many people, especially young people, want to run for office, and nobody hopes to run and lose. What kept you motivated after taking the loss?
You know, Fantasia has a song, and by the way, she's one of my favorite singers. Fantasia has a song, Sometimes You Have to Lose to Win Again.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Don't be afraid.
What did the experience teach you?
Don't be afraid to lose. Don't be afraid to take risk. Just know, I mean, in everything you do in life, you're not going to always win.
Mm-hmm.
And you certainly may not always win the first time, but you got to get up and try again. Don't be afraid to take chances. And by the way, you can't win if you're not in the game.
Yeah. What advice would you give to the next generation of leaders that are thinking about pursuing elected office one day?
Do it. Do it. We need you. We need you. We need you. We need you. My daughter just turned 9 years old. This little girl is so wise. She says things that I'm like, I'm thinking about what she's saying. Like, I can learn from a 9-year-old. So I know that I can learn from this next generation of leaders. And they're so brave. Corey, I watch them. They're brave. They're not afraid to speak up. I feel like I was more brave than the generation before me. These young people are, and I'm young, but they're younger. They're even more brave. And so I respect them. I respect their thought process. And so I encourage them, don't allow anyone to tell you to wait your turn. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's what I was just going to say. You hear so often folks say, wait your turn, or it's not your time. And
what is that? So who determines that? And so I tell people, don't let anyone discourage you. Get up and do it. And by the way, I'll also share this. To the electorate, they're just looking for, are you like them? Mm-hmm. Are you going to have their best interest at heart? They're not like even concerned with this inner baseball stuff.
Yeah. So
when you hear wait your turn and this, that, and the other, the electorate, they're just looking for someone that is going to best represent them. So if that is you, I say go for it.
I love that. 2 more questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
You've blazed an amazing career both in the corporate sector and the public sector. What do you want your legacy to be?
So someone has asked me that before about legacy. Mm-hmm. And I always say that I'm not in this role for it to be about me. So I don't really think about legacy, really, except with my daughter, mm-hmm. right? So in this role, I just want to make certain it's about the people. But what I would say is that I want people to remember me by changing lives. I feel that if we're going to sit downtown in City Hall and all I do is sit in the office and crunch numbers and don't make them numbers count and get out into the community to bring those resources to the people, then I may as well go home.
And last question is, who is Melissa Conyears-Ervin in your own words?
Oh my gosh, a superwoman, a superwoman. But she's a heck of a woman, I tell you. She's a woman that has guts. As I mentioned, that's not afraid of taking risks, not afraid of losing to win again, not afraid to stand up and be who I am. I've learned to be just who I am.
Yeah.
I don't try to show up as anybody else but Melissa Conyears-Ervin. So I'm a loving person. I'm compassionate. I'm a people person. Mm-hmm. Like I meet people on the streets and they're like, hey, Melissa. I'm like, hey, Madam Treasurer, hey. Like whatever it is, I'm there for you. I don't judge people. I love you. I want to be there for you. I want to meet you where you are. I want to help you. I want to help you be the best person you can be. Melissa is a mother, a wife, a caretaker for her sister, an auntie, a sister herself, everything you can imagine. I share the same struggles as anyone else.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder who's going to take care of my child. If the babysitter gets sick and I know I have to be here, I have to be there. We got to try to make it work. I share those same struggles. I bleed just like anyone else. I cry just like anyone else. But at the end of the day, as my mother always taught me, when you get done crying, now what?
And that's how you end the segment. That's a mic drop moment.
That's it.
Well, Madam Treasurer, first I want to say thank you for joining me today. And on behalf of so many of like my contemporaries that are in this space, I want to thank you not only for serving as an inspiration of what we can inspire to, but also, and you just touched on it, doing it authentically.
Yes.
And so often, particularly for younger Black professionals, you are taught to come in and be a certain way, and you're not encouraged to be yourself. You're encouraged to code switch. And so I love the fact that I've seen you navigate spaces and you are authentically yourself, professional, but also real. And I love to see that. So I want to thank you on behalf of everybody.
Well, I'm just excited to be sitting here with you. I'm so proud of you, Corey. And I'm proud of you and your colleagues in this space, because we don't always get this space.
Yeah.
We don't always have this opportunity to be able to just talk, to relax. By the way, Corey told me to dress down a little bit and be more casual today. He told me don't come in the suit and all that and the high heels. So I tried to like, settle down a little bit today and adhere to his request. But I appreciate this environment to be able to talk. So keep doing that, because this is very refreshing. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
This episode of In My Own Words is brought to you by Every Kid's a Superhero by Corey Timms. Available now on Amazon.